or JPEG? RAW versus JPEG, RAW versus JPEG. Should I be shooting in RAW or JPEG? Ah! Hey guys, it's Stacy, and I'm here to answer that question for you. As a professional family photographer, should you be shooting in RAW or JPEG file format, and why? And what does RAW even mean? And what does JPEG even stand for? Don't worry, I'm going to explain all of this to you, and I'm going to take you on a little mini photo shoot with baby Odin this morning, and then we're going to come back in for a live editing session, and I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of the RAW versus JPEG images. So let's get started. So when I was just starting out, another professional photographer told me to just shoot in RAW. So if you take one thing away from this video, it's to shoot in RAW. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So go to the back of your camera, and I shoot with the Nikon D750, but it's the same across brands basically. You go to your menu and then image quality, and then I'm going to choose RAW and JPEG. Only because we're going to do the side-by-side comparison today of the JPEG and RAW files, and so I want to be able to have one of each identical photo so that you can see the difference yourself. So what does JPEG stand for? It stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group. Is that important? Absolutely not. You do not have to remember it. It's just the name of the group that developed the file format extension in 1992, and since then it's the most widely used file format in the world. It's used billions of times a day, which makes it super convenient and really shareable and really easy to read by all systems. So basically what a JPEG is your camera's computer sensor records the information of the photo that you're taking, like white balance and blacks and shadows and highlights and all that wonderful, beautiful stuff. And then it mixes it all together in this predetermined formula that somebody over at Nikon or Canon came up with. It compresses it all down into a nice, neat little package, and then it throws out all the data that it thinks isn't worthwhile, and then it spits out a ready-to-go photo for you out of the camera. So straight out of camera, SOOC, that's an acronym if you're a beginning photographer, straight out of camera, you have basically an edited photo that's ready to go. However convenient this is, we're not going for convenience. We're professional photographers, we're going for quality. And in order to have quality, we need to be shooting in RAW because way too much information is lost in the JPEG compression process. And because so much of that data gets lost in compression, that means that JPEG images have a maximum bit depth of 8, which means that some colors that you see are not even going to show up in your photo. So in JPEGs, you can see like 16 million colors, and that kind of feels like a lot, right? But with a RAW image, you can see trillions of colors. And to a photographer's eye, there's a big difference between millions of colors versus trillions of colors. Now, RAW files are just that, raw. They're like the raw ingredients of a recipe. So they're the raw ingredients of your photo. So you take all those elements I mentioned before, white balance and contrast and highlights, and your camera's image sensor records all of it. It doesn't throw any of it out. And it gives you all that information so that you can then go put your photo up on the computer and have so much versatility and flexibility in post-processing that you could take an image that's several f-stops off and correct it so that it looks like this. How incredibly beautiful is that? So as a beginning photographer, this is the most important thing. So I found this blog that I created when I was first starting out. It's called Giving It a Shot. I love that I kept this up. And you can see I have the natural ability, and these photos are actually beautiful. I think the family probably still cherishes them, but the editing is so horrible. It's so green. And because I shot in JPEG, I cannot go back and re-edit those for that family. Because we live in the Instagram age now, moms sometimes like that Instagram filter to their family photos. So you might be editing in that style a little bit, and in 10 years from now, that is going to be so dated. You're going to want to go back and re-edit that into something that's more updated or more classic. And you can do that if you shot it in RAW. So there's a few issues with RAW that aren't that huge of an issue in this day and age. First of all, since the files are so huge, you need bigger and better and faster memory cards, but in 2020, memory cards are getting so much cheaper, it's not that big of a deal. Because the files are so huge, you need tons of storage. So in my 15 years as a photographer, I have gone through so many different hard drives and cloud storage systems, and now in 2020, it isn't that much of an issue because internet speeds are so fast now, cloud storage systems are so inexpensive, you can really store all your RAW files on the cloud now. and it's not that big of an issue, and it's not expensive. I'll go ahead and link to my cloud storage down below. Then the other thing is that raw files are not really easy to share, and they're not easily read by other systems. So sometimes when I've been traveling and doing shoots in other states, I've had to maybe quickly borrow someone else's computer to look at something and then realize that they do not have the software to read the raw file format. It's not that big of a deal because as family photographers, you're probably mostly editing at your home computer, and you'll have the software on there to edit your raw files. And when you're done editing your raw files, you can press them down into a JPEG image and then present them to your client in a really shareable form. So in the end, you're still getting JPEG. So if you want to take your photography business to the next level, you have to shoot in RAW. Because if you're making exposure mistakes, it is so easy to go back in RAW and correct those. Also, there's a lot you can do with noise reduction, white balance, and color. It's just, there's so much versatility in RAW. And then B, so that you can create a signature editing look for your photos. And this is really going to put you in the top 10% of photographers, because if you notice, when you go through your Instagram feed, the photographers that you really love, you don't even have to look at their username. People tell me all the time that they can just identify my photography because I have a certain style of shooting and I have a certain style of editing. So what a lot of photographers like me do is we record the steps that we take while we're editing, and then we put them into a package and you put them on your computer, and all you have to do is hit play on your photo, and then my actions in Photoshop are taken on your photo. So if you love my editing style, I have my own action set. You can see here it's called the Sweep Writing Action Set. And so you can get these beautiful edits just like these, just by hitting the play button. And I really encourage you, if you are starting out using actions, do not use them too heavily and play around with the opacity levels when you do. So let's go ahead and do that side-by-side comparison. So I'm going to switch to my computer now. Okay guys, so what I found when watching YouTube editing tutorials is that they are way too technical. So as a beginning family photographer, it is so important for you to just have a general idea of what the difference between RAW and JPEG file format is. We do not have to get technical with the editing. Just a disclaimer, I am not a great editor. I delegate all the work that I don't love. That is one reason I'm super successful in my business. And one thing I delegate is editing. I have a wonderful editor that does my photos for me. I just do all my Instagram photos and personal photos and things like that. Quickly, I'm going to show you. This is the JPEG RAW edited. So when you look on the back of your camera, the RAW file is actually going to look worse than your JPEG. And the reason why is because the JPEG is actually an edited photo. So your camera's spitting it out ready to go. The RAW file is not. So it's expecting you to do the post-processing after. So it's not going to look as good when you first bring it into the computer. So here's the JPEG of this image, which the background is totally blown out. In the RAW, you're able to really work with that exposure to even the light out a whole bunch. Work with those shadows and the black. So JPEG, RAW, edited. And again, if I was spending more time, I would work on bringing the sky back in, which is another wonderful thing about RAW files, is if you blow out the sky because you're exposing for the face of your model, the sky gets blown out. If you shoot in RAW, usually you can bring that back in. So let's take a look at that now. Let's bring a couple images into Photoshop. JPEG, RAW, edited. Look at that food on his face. JPEG, RAW, edited. JPEG, RAW, edited. Yeah, that's a big difference there too. Oh, and then this one is a huge difference. JPEG, RAW. Oh my gosh. So I would normally just throw this picture out, but if it was a JPEG, but look at how much exposure I was able to bring back into this photo. And then edited. Okay, so let's bring a couple into Photoshop and run a couple actions on them and just see what things look like. I picked out these because, oh, he's so adorable. He was eating a flower in that picture. Okay, so I did already edit the RAW of these, so I'm gonna go back to the original. So you can see I picked this one because it is so dark, and all you have to do is bump up the exposure and it becomes a usable photo again. How incredible is that? So I'm just going to quickly do a quick little RAW edit on this. Okay, that's good enough for now. Maybe. So my style is really airy and joyful and overexposed. I really love to bump up the shadows and exposure. Okay, so I already did that one. Let's put it back to normal. So you can see the colors all off. I'm just gonna go to auto, and then we're gonna bump up the exposure to see how we can work with this. So see, there's so much data lost here on the side of his face. Let's see if the highlights bring that back in. So look at that. Look at how much the highlights can do. Okay, bring some blacks in, bump up the whites, and then the shadows, and the exposure a little bit more. Okay, so that's good enough for now. We're gonna open these and then run a couple quick sweep right being actions on them, because I am doing a giveaway in this video for the sweep right being action set, which is my action set, which I'll talk about. Action sets are awesome. All you have to do is press a play button, and there's so many different things that you can do with just one photo. So I added that with a cool conversion before. Let's do a warm conversion and see how that looks. So I hit play, and it's just gonna show up over here in the layers section, everything that's happening. And then you can play with the opacity if you need to. You can also open it and look at the different layers, but we're not going to do that right now. And then for this one, I think I did it was a warm conversion. So let's do a cool conversion on this, Fearless Simplicity. So I worked with a really good editor, and her business is called Live Joy Photography. And she is an incredible newborn photographer, and we worked together to come up with this whole action pack. She's like a master editor, and I am not. So guys, I hope that gave you guys a general idea of the difference between JPEG and RAW file format. Let's go ahead and just take a look at one more example so that as we get back to shooting, we know what we're dealing with. So JPEG, RAW gives you so much more information to work with, and then you can edit it into your own signature style. So hopefully you were able to see the difference between RAW and JPEG file format a little bit more clearly for yourself, and you understand it a little bit better now, and you're more willing to go shoot in RAW because you know how much flexibility you're gonna have when you come back into Photoshop or Lightroom. So I'm gonna give away a sweep right being action set in today's video. All you have to do to enter is do one nice thing for someone else today and put it in the comments down below. There's no catch. You don't have to subscribe to my channel, but you can for bonus entries. And you don't have to subscribe to the social media in my description, but you can for bonus entries. All I really want you to do is do something nice for someone else and tell me what it is. And then in 3 weeks, I'll announce the winner. So to conclude, unless you're the world's best photographer and you nail exposure every single time, or you're just shooting casually, it's okay to shoot in JPEG. But otherwise, if you're a professional family photographer, whether you're beginning, just starting out, or advanced, please shoot in RAW. It's going to give you the flexibility to not only correct any mistakes that you make with your exposure and in your camera, but it's also going to give you the ability to create your own beautiful signature look for your images. So I'm so excited to see what you guys come up with. I hope you found value in today's video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button below and watch the next video. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.